The glass door swung open, and Emily Dawes felt her heart stop. Not pause. Not skip. Stop. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you've just walked into a story that's about to tear you apart and put you back together again. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are we even doing? Hit that button because you're going to want to see how this ends. Trust me, the man standing in the clinic doorway wore a Tom Ford suit that cost more than Emily's annual salary. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jawline sharper than she remembered, and those storm gray eyes, God, those eyes, were scanning the modest waiting room like he'd stumbled into the wrong universe. Jacob Wayne hadn't changed. Not really, except now he looked like money. Impossible money. The kind that built empires and crushed dreams with equal efficiency. Emily's hands trembled as she gripped the intake clipboard. 5 years. 5 years of rebuilding herself, of night shifts and ramen dinners, of singing lullabies to a daughter with his eyes while pretending her heart wasn't shattered glass. I need to speak to whoever runs this clinic, Jacob said, his voice exactly as she remembered. Smooth, commanding, devastatingly familiar. I have an urgent referral for a pediatric case through the Lighthouse Foundation. He hadn't seen her yet. She stood partially hidden behind the nurse's station, frozen in that horrible space between fight and flight. Then Hannah, sweet, curious, impossibly talkative Hannah, burst through the staff door, her tiny sneakers lighting up with each step. "Mommy," Mrs. Chun said I could. The little girl stopped. Jacob's head turned, and Emily watched the exact moment her entire world began to collapse. Because Hannah had his eyes. The same storm gray that could break hearts and build kingdoms. The same stubborn tilt to her chin. The same way of standing, even at 5 years old, like she owned every room she entered. Jacob's face went absolutely white. "Ooh!" His voice cracked. Those laser-focused eyes moved from Hannah to Emily, and she saw the calculation, the counting backward, the devastating math of betrayal clicking into place. Emily, she couldn't breathe, couldn't think. How do you explain the unexplainable? Emily's knees nearly gave out, but maternal instinct kicked in faster than panic. She moved swiftly to Hannah, placing protective hands on her daughter's shoulders. "Hannah, sweetie, go back to Mrs. Chun. Now, but I wanted to show you my... Now, baby." Something in Emily's voice made the little girl obey. Hannah cast one curious glance at the tall stranger before disappearing through the staff door, her light-up shoes blinking like tiny warning signals. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jacob stood frozen, his briefcase hanging from fingers that had gone bloodless. "Tell me I'm wrong." His voice was barely a whisper. "Tell me that little girl isn't... that she's not. This isn't the place." Emily's voice shook despite her best effort to sound professional. Around them, 3 patients sat in the waiting room. Mrs. Rodriguez with her grandson, old Mr. Patterson, and a young mother Emily didn't recognize. All of them were suddenly very interested in their phones. "How old is she?" Jacob's question cut like a scalpel. "Jacob, please." "How old, Emily?" "5. The word came out broken. "She's 5. She watched him do the math again, watched the color drain further from his face, watched the exact moment rage began replacing shock. His hands clenched into fists, the tendons in his neck standing out like cables. "Exam room 3, Emily managed. 5 minutes. She didn't wait for his response. Turning on trembling legs, she walked toward the staff area with as much dignity as she could salvage, feeling his stare burning holes through her back. In the tiny break room, Emily braced herself against the sink, staring at her reflection. The same green eyes that had once looked at Jacob with stupid, reckless love now belonged to a woman who'd learned that fairy tales were for other people. She'd been 23 when they met, a nursing student working double shifts, believing in happy endings. He'd been 26, hungry and ambitious, building his first startup in a cramped apartment with nothing but genius and determination. They'd been so damn young, so impossibly in love. Then his company exploded. Suddenly Jacob was on magazine covers, shaking hands with venture capitalists, traveling to conferences in Singapore and Dubai. and Emily became the before girlfriend who didn't fit the afterlife. His mother, the formidable Catherine Wayne, had made that crystal clear during their one excruciating lunch meeting. You seem like a sweet girl, but Jacob is destined for extraordinary things. You'd only hold him back. Surely you can see that. Emily had seen it. Worse, she believed it. She'd broken up with Jacob 2 weeks later, citing their different paths, their incompatible futures. It had been the most selfless, stupid thing she'd ever done. He'd fought it first, then pride took over. The last thing he'd said to her, "If you're going to give up on us this easily, maybe you're right. Maybe we were never meant to last." 3 weeks after that, she'd taken the pregnancy test, and she'd made the second most devastating decision of her life, not to tell him. He's building an empire. He'll think I'm trapping him. He'll hate me, or worse. He'll marry me out of obligation and resent me forever. Emily, Maria Chun, the clinic's office manager and Emily's closest friend, poked her head in. Her weathered face was creased with concern. That man out there looks like he's about to have a stroke. Also, he looks exactly like Hannah. Exactly like Hannah. Please tell me this isn't what I think it is. It's worse than what you think it is. Emily's laugh came out slightly hysterical. Does he know? He does now. Maria crossed herself. Dios mío. What are you going to do? Emily straightened her scrubs, pulled her dark hair into a tighter ponytail, and tried to remember how to breathe. I'm going to face the man whose heart I broke, tell him I've been hiding his daughter for 5 years, and pray he doesn't destroy everything I've built to protect her. You want me to call security? We don't have security, Maria. I'll get Louise for maintenance. He's big. Despite everything, Emily smiled. I'll be fine. Just keep Hannah occupied. Don't let her out of your sight. Because the terrifying truth was this. Jacob Wayne didn't just have his eyes. He had the resources to take her. The money to bury Emily in court proceedings she couldn't afford. The power to rip apart the small, precious life they'd built in this underfunded clinic in a neighborhood that tech billionaires only visited for charity photo ops. Emily had spent 5 years loving their daughter enough for 2 parents. Now she had to face the one parent she'd deliberately erased. She walked toward exam room 3, where the man she'd never stopped loving was waiting for answers she didn't know how to give. Jacob stood with his back to the door when Emily entered, staring at the cheerful mural of cartoon animals some volunteer had painted years ago. His shoulders were rigid, his entire body coiled like a spring under unbearable pressure. "Close the door," he said without turning. Emily did. The click of the latch sounded like a prison cell closing. 5 years. Jacob turned slowly, and the expression on his face made Emily step backward. It wasn't rage. That would have been easier. It was devastation. Raw, unfiltered betrayal carved into every line of his features. "You've kept my daughter from me for 5 years? Jacob, if you just let me explain." Explain. His laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. What possible explanation could justify this? Did you think I wouldn't want her? Did you think so little of me that you assumed I'd, what? Abandon you both? Pay you off? You were building Wayne Technologies. You were on the cover of Forbes, dating supermodels, becoming everything you dreamed of. And you decided I didn't deserve to know I had a child? The words hit like physical blows. Emily forced herself to hold his gaze. I decided a baby didn't deserve a father who'd see her as an obligation. A mistake that derailed his perfect trajectory. Something flickered in Jacob's eyes. That's what you thought? That I'd see my own daughter as a mistake? Your mother made it very clear I was a mistake. Emily shot back. That I was dead weight dragging you down. What do you think she would have said about an unplanned pregnancy? Jacob's jaw clenched. My mother doesn't. Your mother runs your life, Jacob. She always has. Emily's voice cracked. I couldn't watch you choose between your dreams and our baby. I couldn't watch you resent us both. So you made the choice for me. His voice dropped to something dangerous. You played God with my life, with my daughter's life, and now you're standing here acting like it was noble. Before Emily could respond, his phone buzzed. Jacob glanced at it, and his expression shifted, something harder sliding into place behind his eyes. That's my assistant. I'm supposed to be in a board meeting right now. He pocketed the phone and fixed her with a stare that could have frozen oceans. Here's what's going to happen. I came here for the Lighthouse Foundation referral. A 6-year-old girl named Sophie Kelly who needs specialized care your clinic can provide. I'm going to handle that business first because, unlike some people, I keep my commitments. The barb landed perfectly. Then you and I are going to have a very long conversation about my daughter. Her name, her life, her medical history, everything you've stolen from me. He moved toward the door, then paused. And Emily, if you even think about running, about taking her somewhere I can't find you, I will use every resource at my disposal to hunt you down. Are we clear? Emily's throat was too tight to speak. She managed a nod. Jacob opened the door, then looked back one last time. Does she know about me? Does Hannah know she has a father? The question broke something inside Emily's chest. She thinks, I told her you didn't want us, that you chose your career instead. She watched Jacob absorb that, watched it land like a blade between his ribs. You made me the villain in my own daughter's story. His voice was barely audible. I'll never forgive you for that. He walked out, leaving Emily standing in the exam room, finally understanding that some breaks can never be mended. Outside, thunder rumbled, the first drops of rain beginning to fall. Emily watched through the observation window as Jacob sat with Sophie Kelly and her mother in the consultation room. The little girl had cerebral palsy, her thin legs braced in orthotics, her smile bright despite the pain Emily knew she lived with daily. Jacob had shed his suit jacket. He was crouched at Sophie's level, showing her something on his phone, a video that made her giggle, the sound carrying faintly through the door. The tenderness in his expression made Emily's heart physically ache. He would have been a good father. He's a good father. You just never gave him the chance. He's good with her, Maria observed, appearing beside Emily with 2 cups of terrible break room coffee. Natural. He's good at everything. Emily accepted the coffee she didn't want. It's annoying. You still love him. It wasn't a question. Emily didn't bother denying it. I never stopped. That was never the problem. Inside the room, Jacob stood, shaking Mrs. Kelly's hand. Through the window, Emily could see him explaining something, his hands moving with that precise, confident energy he brought to everything. Even devastated and furious, he was honoring his commitment to help this family. Meanwhile, down the hall, Hannah was probably driving Maria's assistant crazy with questions. Their daughter had inherited Jacob's relentless curiosity along with his eyes, always asking why, always digging deeper, never satisfied with surface answers. God, they're so alike. The consultation ended. Mrs. Kelly looked relieved, even hopeful. Sophie was beaming. Jacob had worked whatever magic he'd come to work, probably writing a check that would cover treatments Emily's underfunded clinic could barely dream of providing. He emerged from the room, spotted Emily, and the warmth in his expression evaporated instantly. My office, she said quietly. We should talk privately. They walked in loaded silence through the clinic's narrow hallways. Emily felt the staff's curious stares, heard the whispers starting. By tomorrow, everyone would know. By next week, it might hit the press. Billionaire CEO's secret love child. Her office was barely larger than a closet, crammed with filing cabinets and medical journals. Jacob filled the space completely, making it feel even smaller. Tell me about her. He didn't sit, just stood with arms crossed, every muscle tight. Everything. Emily sank into her desk chair, suddenly exhausted. She's incredible, Jacob. Smart as hell. She taught herself to read at 4. She's stubborn, fearless, doesn't take no for an answer. She wants to be a scientist or maybe an astronaut, depending on the day. Something softened microscopically in Jacob's expression. She looks like my sister did at that age. Same eyes, same. I know. Emily's voice cracked. Every time I look at her, I see you. Does she ask about me? The question was quiet, almost vulnerable. It reminded Emily of the old Jacob, the one who'd stayed up all night with her studying for exams, who'd brought her soup when she was sick, who'd looked at her like she was his entire world. All the time, Emily admitted. I tell her you're very busy, very important, that you live far away. More lies, easier lies than the truth. Which is what exactly? Jacob leaned against the filing cabinet. That you push me away, then disappeared? That you decided single parenthood was preferable to even giving me a chance? The truth is I was terrified. Emily stood abruptly. I was 23, barely scraping by, and suddenly pregnant by a man whose life was moving at light speed away from mine. Your mother had already told me I wasn't good enough. My mother is a controlling nightmare who I've barely spoken to in 3 years, Jacob interrupted. If you'd told me, if you'd given me even the smallest chance, I would have. He stopped abruptly. You would have what? Emily challenged. Marry me out of duty? Resented me every time a board meeting conflicted with a pediatrician appointment? Looked at Hannah and seen the dream you had to sacrifice. I would have loved you both. The words exploded out of him. I would have figured it out, Emily. We could have figured it out together. But you didn't trust me enough to try. The accusation hung between them, true and terrible. Before Emily could respond, her office door burst open. Maria stood there, face pale. Emily, it's Hannah. She's running a fever. High 1. And she's asking for you. Every other thought evaporated. Emily was already moving, pushing past Maria into the hallway. Behind her, she heard Jacob's footsteps following. Their daughter needed them. For the first time in 5 years, they were about to parent together. Hannah lay on the examination table in the pediatric room, her small face flushed with fever, her storm-gray eyes glassy. Emily's hands were steady as she checked vitals, years of nursing training overriding the panic screaming through her veins. Temperature's 103.4, she murmured, reaching for the thermometer again to confirm. Hannah, baby, does your throat hurt? Your ears? My tummy, Hannah whimpered. And I'm cold, Mommy. Emily grabbed a blanket, tucking it around her daughter with practiced efficiency. But her mind was racing through differentials, flu, strep, appendicitis, something worse. What can I do? She'd almost forgotten Jacob was there. He stood in the doorway, looking utterly lost, stripped of the commanding presence that made boardrooms bend to his will. Right now, he was just a terrified father watching his daughter suffer. His daughter. God, he's her father, and he doesn't even know how to help her. There's a cool washcloth in that drawer, Emily said softly. Wet it and bring it here. Jacob moved immediately, grateful for direction. He brought the cloth, and Emily showed him how to fold it, where to place it on Hannah's forehead. Like this. His hand shook slightly. Perfect. Hannah's eyes focused on Jacob's face with fever-bright curiosity. Are you Mommy's friend? Emily watched Jacob's throat work as he swallowed. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm a very old friend. You're tall, and you have eyes like mine. The observation was so innocent, so devastating. Jacob's hand froze on the washcloth. Hannah, Emily intervened gently. Let Mommy check your belly, okay? The examination took 3 minutes. 3 minutes that felt like hours, with Jacob watching every move, learning his daughter through crisis. Emily palpated Hannah's abdomen carefully, noting the tenderness in the lower right quadrant, the way Hannah winced and pulled away. No, please, not that. Maria, Emily called out, keeping her voice calm. I need you to prep for possible transport to Memorial. Jacob's head snapped up. Transport? What's wrong? Emily moved to the computer, pulling up Hannah's medical records. Her hands typed rapidly, documenting symptoms, creating a referral. Could be appendicitis. I need a surgical consult. Appendicitis? Jacob's voice pitched higher. She needs surgery? Maybe. I don't know yet. I'm a nurse, not a... Emily stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. She couldn't think straight. This was Hannah. Her baby. She couldn't be objective, couldn't? Emily. Jacob's hand landed on her shoulder, firm and grounding. What do you need? She looked up at him, and suddenly they weren't exes, weren't people drowning in betrayal and secrets. They were just two parents terrified for their child. Dr. Reeves at Memorial. He's the best pediatric surgeon in the state, but he's expensive and the wait list is... I'll call him. Jacob already had his phone out. What's his first name? Thomas. But Jacob, you can't just... He was already dialing, already moving into the hallway. Through the window, Emily watched him transform back into the CEO who made impossible things happen. his posture straightening, his voice taking on that tone of absolute authority that meant someone was about to move mountains. "Hannah." Emily turned back to her daughter. "How's your tummy now, baby? Still hurts?" Hannah's voice was small, scared. "Am I really sick?" "You might be, sweetie, but we're going to take care of you." Emily stroked her daughter's hair, the same dark shade as her own. "That man outside? He's calling a very good doctor who's going to make sure you're okay. He seems nice. Is he the tall man from the pictures?" Emily froze. "What pictures?" "In your room. In the box under your bed." Hannah's fever-bright eyes were too knowing. "The ones you look at when you think I'm sleeping. You cry sometimes." The confession hit like a sledgehammer. Emily had thought she'd been so careful, so private with her grief. But children saw everything, knew everything. "Yeah, baby," Emily whispered, tears burning behind her eyes. "That's him. Is he my daddy?" The question came right as Jacob walked back in. He stopped dead, phone still in his hand, having heard every word. The silence stretched impossibly long. Hannah looked between them, confused and sick and waiting for an answer that would change everything. Emily met Jacob's eyes across the room. In them, she saw fury and pain and something else. A fierce, protective love already taking root. He'd known Hannah for less than an hour, but she was already his. Completely, irrevocably his. He crossed to the examination table and knelt beside it, bringing himself to Hannah's eye level. "Yeah, sweetheart," he said, his voice breaking on the words. "I'm your daddy, and I'm so sorry it took me this long to meet you." Hannah studied him with that unervingly intelligent gaze. "Mommy said you were too busy for us." Jacob's eyes cut to Emily, a look of absolute devastation, before returning to Hannah. "Your mommy was wrong. I'm never too busy for you. Not ever again. Promise? I promise." Hannah seemed to accept this. She reached out one small hand, and Jacob took it, his large fingers engulfing her tiny ones. "Dr. Reeves will see her in an hour," Jacob said to Emily, not letting go of Hannah's hand. "I'm having my helicopter pick us up from a roof." "We don't have a roof landing pad." "We do now. I bought the building 3 months ago." Emily stared at him. "You what?" "The Lighthouse Foundation's been funding this clinic for 6 months, Emily. Did you think that was coincidence?" Something hard glinted in his eyes. "I've been trying to find a way back into your life since I saw your name on a grant application. I just never imagined this was why you disappeared." The revelation rocked through her. He'd been looking for her. While she'd been hiding, he'd been searching. "We need to talk about this," Emily managed. "Yeah," Jacob agreed, standing but keeping Hannah's hand in his. "We really do. But first, we take care of our daughter." "Our daughter." The words felt like both a promise and a threat. The helicopter ride to Memorial Hospital passed in a blur of rotor noise and Hannah's whimpers. Emily held her daughter while Jacob coordinated with the surgical team via headset, his jaw tight, his hand never leaving Hannah's ankle, the only part of her he could reach. Dr. Reeves met them on the helipad. After a rapid examination and ultrasound, his expression turned grave. "It's appendicitis, and it's progressing quickly. We need to operate within the hour." Everything moved too fast after that. Consent forms, pre-op procedures, Hannah being wheeled away while calling for her mommy. Emily tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her at the surgical suite doors. "Parents wait here. We'll update you." The doors swung closed. Hannah disappeared. Emily stood frozen in the empty hallway, suddenly unable to breathe. Her knees buckled. Jacob caught her, guided her to a nearby chair. "She's going to be fine. Reeves is the best." "You don't know that." Emily's voice came out strangled. "Complications happen. Infections, reactions to anesthesia, surgical errors." "Emily, she's all I have." The words ripped out of her. "For 5 years, she's been everything. My reason for every choice, every sacrifice. If something happens to her, if I lose her." "You won't lose her. I won't let you lose her." Emily looked up at him through tears. "You can't control this, Jacob. For once in your life, you can't fix it with money or phone calls or sheer force of will." The truth of it settled over them both. They were powerless, reduced to waiting while strangers held their daughter's life in surgical hands. 30 minutes crawled by. An hour. 2. Emily paced. Jacob made calls he didn't need to make, just to feel like he was doing something. Neither of them spoke about the elephant in the room, the custody battle that was inevitably coming. Finally, Jacob broke the silence. My lawyers will contact you Monday. Emily's blood went cold. What? I want split custody. Formal, legal arrangements. I've missed 5 years. I'm not missing another day. You can't just. Can't I? Jacob turned on her, and the rage he'd been suppressing erupted. You hid my daughter from me. You lied to her about me. You made me a stranger to my own child. What judge wouldn't side with me? I'm her mother, and I'm her father. A father with unlimited resources, Emily. I can afford the best lawyers, the best custody evaluators, the best everything. His voice turned cold. You're a single nurse working in a free clinic. You can barely afford this hospital bill without my help. The cruelty of it stole her breath. You take her from me? After everything. You took her from me first. The accusation echoed in the hallway. A passing nurse glanced over, concerned. Emily stood, shaking with fury and terror. If you try to take my daughter, I will fight you with everything I have. You'll lose. Maybe, but I'll make sure Hannah knows exactly what kind of man her father really is. Someone who uses money as a weapon. Someone who punishes people for being afraid. Jacob's face went white. You're going to poison her against me? You're going to rip her from the only parent she's ever known. They were both shouting now, 5 years of pain and betrayal finally detonating. Mr. Wayne? Ms. Dawes. They spun. Dr. Reeves stood there, still in surgical scrubs, his expression unreadable. Emily's heart stopped. There were complications, he said quietly. Complications? Emily's voice came out as a whisper. Dr. Reeves raised a hand. Hannah's fine. The surgery went well. But during the procedure, we discovered something in her blood work that concerns me. Jacob stepped forward. What kind of something? Her platelet count is lower than normal. Combined with some scarring on her liver that showed up on imaging, I'd like to run additional tests. Has Hannah had any unusual illnesses? Prolonged fevers, unexplained bruising. Emily's mind raced back through 5 years of motherhood. She had a bad respiratory infection when she was 2, hospitalized for 4 days. They said it was just severe bronchitis, but her recovery took weeks. Any family history I should know about? Genetic conditions, blood disorders? Emily shook her head helplessly. I don't know his family history. Her voice broke. I never asked. The admission hung there, another consequence of her choices. Jacob was already pulling out his phone. My sister had ITP, immune thrombocytopenia. Childhood diagnosis. She outgrew it, but it's genetic. What else do you need? I'll have my complete medical records sent within the hour. My parents, my grandparents, everything. Dr. Reeves nodded. That's helpful. Let's not panic. This could be nothing. But I want to be thorough. Hannah's in recovery now. She's asking for both of you. Both of you. Emily and Jacob looked at each other, and something shifted. The anger didn't disappear, but it was suddenly less important than the little girl down the hall who needed them. Together, Emily said quietly. We go in together. Jacob's expression softened fractionally. Together, Hannah looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, for lines running from her arm, monitors beeping steadily. But her eyes were open, and when she saw them, she smiled. Daddy came, she whispered. The word, Daddy, hit Jacob visibly. He crossed to her side, taking her hand with infinite gentleness. Of course I came, sweetheart. I'll always come. Mommy too. Emily moved to the other side of the bed. Always, baby. We're both here. Hannah's eyes drifted between them. Together, the question carried weight beyond its simplicity. Emily met Jacob's gaze over their daughter's head. Yeah, sweetheart, Jacob said, never breaking eye contact with Emily. Together, for the next hour, they stayed like that, one on each side of Hannah's bed, holding her hands, telling her stories. Jacob talked about his sister, about growing up, about things Hannah had never known. Emily filled in gaps about Hannah's childhood. First words, first steps, all the moments Jacob had missed. It hurt. God, it hurt both of them. But they kept talking, kept sharing, kept building the bridge their daughter needed. Around midnight, Hannah finally fell into real sleep. I need coffee, Emily murmured, carefully extracting her hand. You want some? Jacob nodded. They walked to the hospital cafeteria in silence, got 2 terrible cups of coffee, and sat at a table by the windows overlooking the city lights. I'm sorry, Emily said finally. About your sister's medical history. About not knowing. About all of it. Jacob stared into his coffee. I'm sorry I threatened you. I was angry and scared, and I wanted to hurt you the way you hurt me. But taking Hannah from you, he shook his head. That would destroy her. I can see how much she loves you. She'd love you too, if you gave her the chance. If we... Emily stopped, unsure how to finish. If we what? If we tried to figure this out. Really tried. Not through lawyers or custody battles, but like 2 people who both love the same little girl more than anything. Jacob was quiet for a long moment. I meant what I said in that hallway 5 years ago, Emily. When you ended things, you said maybe we weren't meant to last. But I never believed that. Not for a second. Jacob, I look for you. After things settled down with the company, after I told my mother to back off or lose me entirely, I looked everywhere. You'd changed your number, moved, disappeared completely. His voice roughened. I thought maybe you'd found someone else. Someone better. I never imagined that I was raising our daughter alone, that you were that scared to trust me. The accusation was fair. Devastating, but fair. I was wrong, Emily admitted. I can't change the past 5 years. But maybe, if you're willing, maybe we can change the next 5. The next 50. Jacob looked up sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying our daughter needs both of us. And maybe, Emily took a shaky breath. Maybe I never stopped needing you either. For the first time since walking into her clinic, Jacob smiled. 3 days later, Dr. Reeves delivered the news. Hannah's condition was manageable. A mild platelet disorder that Jacob's genetic history helped identify immediately. With monitoring and occasional treatment, she'd live a completely normal life. But the real test came when Catherine Wayne arrived. Jacob's mother swept into Hannah's hospital room like a cold front, her designer suit immaculate, her expression carved from ice. She stopped when she saw Emily. So it's true. You have my son's child and hid her. Mother, Jacob stood, placing himself between Catherine and Emily. Don't. Catherine's gaze never left Emily. Do you have any idea what you've stolen from this family? Actually, Emily said quietly, standing to face her, I do. I stole 5 years of birthdays, bedtimes, and scraped knees. I stole first words and first days of school. I made the worst mistake of my life because I believed what you told me, that I wasn't good enough for your son. Catherine's eyes narrowed. But here's what I've learned, Emily continued, her voice stronger now. Hannah doesn't need good enough. She needs parents who love her more than their pride, more than their fear. And if you try to turn this into a weapon against Jacob or me, you'll lose your son and your granddaughter. The room held its breath. Catherine looked at Jacob, who stood shoulder to shoulder with Emily, their united front unmistakable. Then Catherine's gaze dropped to Hannah, awake and watching with those familiar Wayne eyes. Something in Catherine's expression cracked. She looks like Rebecca, she whispered, referencing Jacob's sister. Exactly like her. She acts like her too, Jacob said softly. Stubborn, brilliant, kind. Catherine approached the bed slowly. Hello, Hannah. Hi, Hannah said cautiously. Are you my grandma? Ah, yes. I suppose I am. Okay. Do you want to see my scar? It's pretty cool. And just like that, Hannah disarmed the formidable Catherine Wayne with pure, innocent charm. Later, after Catherine left, promising to return tomorrow, softer than Emily had ever seen her, Jacob pulled Emily aside. Move in with me. Emily blinked. What? Not as. I'm not assuming anything romantic. But I have a house with rooms for both of you. Hannah needs stability while she recovers, and we need time. Time to figure out how to be parents together. Time to see if we can be something more. Emily looked through the window at Hannah, sleeping peacefully. Okay, she whispered. Let's try. Jacob's hand found hers, and for the first time in 5 years, Emily let herself hope. 6 months later, Emily stood in the doorway of Hannah's new bedroom, watching Jacob teach their daughter chess. Afternoon sunlight streamed through windows overlooking a garden where Hannah's treehouse stood, built by Jacob's own hands over 3 weekends. Checkmate. Hannah crowed. Jacob, groaned dramatically. Again? How are you beating me already? Because I'm smarter than you, Daddy. Can't argue with that. Emily smiled. The transition hadn't been seamless. There were still hard conversations, still moments when old wounds ached. But they were learning, growing, healing together. Jacob looked up and caught her watching. The expression in his eyes made her breath catch. Later, after Hannah was asleep, they sat on the back porch with wine and comfortable silence. I hired a new director for the clinic, Jacob said. Someone who can run things while you finish your nurse practitioner certification. Emily had enrolled in graduate school, something she dreamed of but never thought possible. You didn't have to do that. I want you to have your dreams too, Emily. Not just me. She leaned into him, and his arm came around her shoulders automatically. They fit together like they always had, like 5 years apart had been nothing but a painful intermission. I love you, Emily said quietly. I never stopped. Jacob turned her face toward his. I know, and I love you. Both of you. My girls. The kiss was soft, sweet, full of second chances and futures rebuilt from broken pieces. Marry me, Jacob whispered against her lips. Emily pulled back just enough to see his face. Is that a question or demand? It's a promise. I'll spend the rest of my life proving you can trust me, that we're meant to last. Then yes. Through the window, they could see Hannah's nightlight, a constellation projector casting stars across her ceiling. Their daughter, the unexpected miracle who'd brought them back together. They'd lost 5 years, but they had forever ahead. And this time, they weren't letting go. So, beautiful souls, did this story wreck you the way it wrecked me? Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. And don't forget to subscribe because next week's story is even more intense. Until then, remember, second chances are real, love is worth fighting for, and sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most beautiful endings. See you in the next one.